Welcome to the Crypto Comics Studio. Our guest today is Chad Hardin. You might know him from stuff like Reign in Hell, Warlord, Harley Quinn. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I guarantee you, though, nobody knows me from Reign in Hell. Nobody, because nobody.
I mean, that was your
like 10,000 people that know, and that's it. Like that. Harley, maybe.
Wasn't that your first your first major book? Yeah.
Countdown to Mystery.
Oh, okay.
Countdown to Mystery with oh my gosh, Matt, I've gotta.
You don't remember your first book?
Steve Gerber. Oh, I did it. Thank goodness. Steve Gerber.
Okay.
And then also with Lila Sturgis and Gail Simone as well. So I got to work with some really talented writers on that. But that was Steve passed away while writing. So when I got to work with Gail is because Steve passed away before the last issue, and they basically did a tribute issue to Steve, and so that's when I got to work with Gail, and then Lila did pages before. Anywho, but yeah, and I think more people probably read that because it was an event book. I was filling in, but it was an event book. So
okay. When our subject, of course, today is creating the perfect cover. And I've loved your work. So good.
Thank you.
Yes. What's the main difference between working on a cover for a big studio versus your own indie stuff?
It's a lot hard. Usually, when you get an assignment from like Marvel or DC, usually they already know what they want. Okay, well, let's rewind a little bit. With the big publishers, there's two types of covers. They actually have cover artists for their normal books, and then they do this thing called inventory covers or stock covers. And those covers are basically generic covers that, in a pinch, they can just pull from the art and slap it on any book. Whereas, like, if you're doing a cover for yourself, that's for a creator-owned book, especially if it's one you're publishing, usually it's a lot harder to figure out what to do because you're completely on your own. Nobody's there to say, this is what's happening, this is what we're going to do. Like, you have to like get inside your own head and be like, okay, what do people want? And everybody's different. So it's really hard. Like, I'll give you an example. I'm in Utah right now. The Utah comics are like, people that buy comics in Utah, they do not want what people like say in Texas want. Does that make sense? You really have to that and therein lies the difference between being an illustrator and being an artist. An artist is someone, an artist would be like, well, don't tell me what to do. I'm an artist, blah, 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 right? An illustrator, it's like, that's your job to figure out what your client wants and then deliver that artwork. And it might not be something you like or something you enjoy. Your job is to make it look good no matter what. And that's the hard part about doing creator-owned books is because you really have to get inside someone's head. With Marvel and DC, you also have a lot of familiarity with the characters, right? I mean, because half the time, if you're doing a cover for them, so here are the covers I've done. I've done Harley Quinn covers and I've done Teen Titan covers, and I'm trying to think if I've done anything outside those two. But I did the Spider-Man versus Vampire for Marvel. With Spider-Man, it was Spider-Man and Blade. Obviously, everyone knows who those characters are, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But if you're doing it for like a creator-owned book, you do not have the benefit of that familiarity. And so your options are either, do your research and then, try and get inside the head. But even then, it's tricky because costumes change a lot more in independent books. Independent creators are a lot more possessive, and they basically, like if Marvel and DC approach you, they know what you're going to deliver before you do it, right? They know your style, they know your strengths, they know your weaknesses. If they're contacting you to do something, they're contacting you because they're already familiar with the art. They already basically know what you're going to deliver. And then with creator owns, it can get you in trouble because sometimes, like for me, they'll know my name, but they don't necessarily know my art. And so, like, I'll deliver something to them and they're like, that is not what I want at all. And then you're like, okay, well, why did you come to me? Because like this is what I do, you know.
All right,
But
so
it happens all the time. So
with working on those major publishers, such as the Spider-Man versus Dracula, versus you did the cover for Aurora with Tom Rapka. I guess, I wasn't too familiar with that particular character, but I mean, you really made that shine. How many runs do you go through? Do you draw up the mock-up and send it to them, or?
Yeah, let me see if I can find something real quick. So with Tom, like Tom was so easy to work with, you know, really grateful. So with Tom, it's like I just sort of did a sketch, and I honestly, I want to say with Tom, I think he basically watched me do it.
Really?
Like we were on a live stream, and I was like doing it on a live stream, so he basically got to see like the whole thing. So that was like
process. Okay.
Yeah. Like there wasn't a part where like he was unaware. But see,
so was that added pressure?
No, because like it's really weird. Like with all the stuff we've done with crypto together, like Tom and I have never met face to face, but I feel like I know him. Like he's an internet friend, so there's most of the time the trouble comes when like you don't know the person at all. You know what I mean? Like where it's just like a cold contact. That's where things can get dicey, and you're just like, what is going on? But so yeah, let me see if I can find something. You know, let me see if I have like some cover comps real quick that aren't NDA'd out the wazoo. You know what? I think Murat would be okay with me showing some of his. I won't say which one got picked. So let me share my screen real quick. I'll share my screen. Actually, can we just? Oh, there we go. Cool. So these are some covers for Pray for the Sinner. I think 5 or 6. And so you can just sort of see the level of detail. I just do like a really quick, maybe 20-minute comp.
Okay.
And comps are just short for comprehensives. So these are pretty darn rough comps. Like some comps look like finished pieces of artwork. Like, have you ever seen like Drew Struzan's comps?
No, I haven't.
Drew Struzan's comps are better than most people's finished product.
Really?
I'm not exaggerating. Like they are amazing. And so, but this is just something where it's like I'm trying to figure out where the composition is going to go. You can see that I basically block out like, you know, big black shapes. Because when you're working in comics, you know, you always start with pen and ink. So you have you only have two values to deal with. You have the white of the paper and the black of your ink, and that's it. So you got to think that way when you start out, and then you can basically mess with colors later. So you can see.
You're talking about the contrast, the kind of the fundamentals of design there.
Right, okay. Exactly. Yep.
All right. And how do you handle the balance with all that?
You know, at this point, a lot of it's just second nature. But you really, when you're first starting out, you really have to think about it. And a lot of artists don't know how to think about it. Like I'll give you an example. On my live stream, a couple of streams back, I had someone, and I still need to basically write him a critique. I was hoping I could just screen time him because I really hate typing things out. I'd rather just talk to people. This person was sending me some amazing inks. They were sending me some amazing inks, and they were inking people like Finch. Like
wow.
Right, yeah, who's like insanely line intensive. But their line weight was sort of uniform, and their placement of values was uniform throughout the whole inking process. So you don't know where to let your eye go when you're looking at it. And so like you'll notice that on like this one, the plan is to keep everything light, and then it's surrounded by dark. Okay, so that helps the composition, right? Because all of a sudden you have an element where, you know, just the contrast and the value is going to help bring the attention to the protagonist. Okay, and then you look at the monsters, like the alien monster. These are all basically just lines. I'm just going to draw over this. I'll undo it later. But they're all lines that point to the protagonist. So these are all like compositional design tricks to help make sure that this is the focal point, and like, you know, not the rubble on the ground or the alien itself.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So with
yeah.
that, you're just emphasizing your subject instead.
Right. Exactly. You're using the value to help bring emphasis to your focal point. Yeah. Which in this case is the protagonist. Let me hit undo on this real quick. And then yeah, basically I'm just giving options, different poses, different camera angles. Like this is a very like stereotypical sort of pose.
Mm-hmm.
This one's a little bit more interesting, I think. I really
Which
like
one? The one on the left or right?
This one right here.
Okay.
Number 4. I named it In the Lair of the Hive. Okay. So this is sort of like an alien's homage. I don't know if you can see the tiny little eggs. And then this is supposed to be like the queen alien in the background. So this is me basically. I'm not stealing art, but I'm stealing an idea. So this is me stealing an idea
homage.
Yeah, it's an homage to Aliens, you know, or you know, Alien 2, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. And then this one has sort of a more anime flavor. You know, and literally it's just sort of something you might see more often on a manga or a you know, like a DVD cover or something like that. And just the way I drew the eyes and the face, it has more of that feel, but also completely surrounded. And I'll probably have more alien, you know, parts coming in where I'm doing sort of the same thing I'm doing here, just so I'm creating lines coming in. But you'll also notice that a lot of the body is basically surrounded by these darkened shapes, this dark background, and then in the contrast to that, especially after color. So let me show you, like when the color starts adding color, they can come in and basically, whoops, that's a little too dark. You know, because a colorist is going to come in and they're going to mess with the values further. And it might look something more like, the values might look something more like this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then it really brings the focal point to the protagonist even more than what you had before. So, yeah. And then also, if you're blacking those parts out, so Todd McFarlane had a really famous quote in the 90s, him and Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld and Stan Lee, they made these videos. And he said something that I remember to this day clearer than any piece of art advice I've ever gotten. Is like, when in doubt, black it out. Beauty. And if it's completely blacked out, you don't got to draw it, right? But yeah, it starts as comps. And let me see if I can find one that's finished that I can show. Actually, a lot of these I shouldn't be showing. This is probably, here we go. I think I can show this one. I own this one, so I'm not going to sue myself. So this is one that's coming out for Deathwatch with Artist Elite.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is about as far as I get it before I send it to either. This one got inked by Joe Rubenstein. You guys are familiar with Joe, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Joe inked this one, and then I'm going to have Chuck Michael Obach color it. But this is about as far as like the level of detail gets when I do. Now the background spots are really sort of crazy, but really if I turn that layer off, you'll see how simple this piece is. I mean, it's a really sort of simple cover. There's not a lot going on. Like,
you say simple, but that would take me 2 weeks just to even get it half of that good.
Well, were you watching my stream before when I was doing the Godzilla? Like
not the Godzilla one, no.
Let's see if I can find that. Let me bring it back up. Like this commission, I should have charged way more for this commission because look, I'm going to have buildings. I'm going to have like soldiers in the street. I'll probably need to add a few helicopters and stuff like that. This might take me a full week. So I'm losing money on this commission. I'm losing a lot of money on it. I need a little sign that says you get to pick one. This is the price for one character, no background. And if I'm drawing a background on it, it's like double. So I should be charging even more than like what I charge for a cover because this is going to be an insane piece. The level of detail that's going to go in. But,
okay.
Yeah. I agreed to it before I knew the details. Anyway, whatever. So it'll be good. It'll be fun.
You had said before about with you're using mostly kind of the pen and ink, but I notice you're using Procreate now. Do you
Right.
have a personal favorite as to either Procreate versus the standard pen and ink on paper?
So working digitally just makes you faster. That's really all it does, and it also allows you, like, it just allows you a lot more freedom,
Okay.
because if I work traditionally, like, let's take this once again, go back to the Godzilla image, just the perspective work on this image. Like, let me show you one of the things that Procreate does. So I can come in here, I can open this up, Canvas. I can come in here to drawing guide. I can go edit drawing guide, and I can pop in these perspective guides, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let me just do this the best I can. Son of a biscuit eating goat. There we go. So I'm just doing this really quick. But then I can come in here and I can turn on the layer and say a drawing assist. And what it'll do, oops, wrong pencil. Okay, I do got on the layer. Let's do this. But you can see where this will constrain my drawing to that perspective grid. Okay. So I can almost sketch this as fast as I could just any other part of the drawing. I can just sort of blast it out. If I had to do this with ruler on paper,
Oh.
well, first of all, you saw where my perspective lines go. So let's go
Mm-hmm.
back to there. This won't even fit on I don't have a table big enough to draw this. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh yeah.
The perspective lines are completely off of the canvas. They're way drawn back. It's just the shortcuts that digital allows you just speeds you that much up. So for me, it's always easier to do at least the pencils, the layouts, the roughs. Do those on the Procreate, and then I usually take things to a finished look. And if I think I can sell the piece when I'm done, I'll either ink it myself or I'll send it to Joe or Mustafa. They'll ink it up, and then we'll sell it, and then we'll do like a 50-50 split on the cash that we make, because they usually, we have a deal worked out. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if that's the deal with other inkers, but we have a deal worked out, and that's how we do it. And but if I don't think the cover will sell, I won't even ink it. I'll just send it to the colorist and have the colorist do it, and then there's no original. There's no original. So
Okay.
yeah. But maybe it could be an NFT.
Hey. All right, so
But see, even that's scary, because then you have to, like, if it's a copyrighted thing, you have to go to the copyright holder, get the copyright holder's permission. Then you have to have a contract with, And so lots of times, like, if you don't own everything, it becomes a major pain in the bootay. So if you're going to be creating a comic, you really should be the sole owner. That's it. Someone should be the captain. Don't ever try to have two captains. Don't ever do three captains. I've done that before. It doesn't work out well. It ends in tears. Even if you're really good friends, because the biggest thing that happens is when the profits come in and you split the profits, it's not enough for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first problem. Because then it's like, okay, well, if I'm trying to feed my family off of it and they're trying to feed their family off of it, you have to make double the amount that you would if it was just you. So the first thing you should learn from doing, like, creator-owned books is there should only be one, quote unquote creator, and then everybody else is work for hire, because that's the only way you're gonna make any money off of it. It's hard enough to make money off of it. Imagine, like, you get done and it's semi-successful, and then you just take that profit pot and you split it one way, or heaven forbid 3 ways. There's nothing there.
Well, speaking of the trying to feed your family off your artwork,
Uh,
you've kind of famously sold off all of your pieces, haven't you?
Yeah, I don't think I own a single page of Spider-Man or Harley. So every Harley piece I've done, I've sold. I don't have a single piece of artwork from any of that.
I mean, don't you wish you would have at least kept one?
I don't know. At the time, I was trying to feed my kids and put them through college, and that was the bigger need at the time. And I didn't give a shit. I needed the $20 more than I needed. You know,
Okay.
I sold a lot of Harley pages for like $40. A lot. I
For
told you about
$40?
yeah, I told you about how like I see a lot of the stuff that I sold for like $20, $40 now being sold for
Like 3-4 grand for.
yeah, I saw like most of it is hovering about $800 a page. But yeah, I've seen some stuff go for like nearly 4,000 a page, depending on the page. If it has like Ivy and Harley in the page and they're doing something interesting, yeah, it's insane. And so there's a
Man.
part of me that said, well, I just should have waited, but I couldn't wait. I couldn't
Yeah.
wait. It's like, okay, kids, you know, imagine drinking that cup of milk 20 years from now. You know, like you got to do what you got to do, and
Yeah.
and a lot of comic creators. I had my kid. I started my family very young. I was 23 when I got married. We had our first child when we were 24, and then we basically had a child every 2 years. Okay, so you know, I was still in my 20s when my last daughter was born, and there's advantages to that, which is like the advantages are like they're raised now. I'm still in my 40s. My kids are raised. Woohoo! You know what I mean? Like I'm not an old man, and you know, and I have friends. Like I have one friend. I won't say because I don't know if they want me to talk about this. But they had their first kid when they're like 53. Their first kid, and I'm like, oh dude.
No.
I'm like, you might not make it to her graduation. You know what I mean? Like you might be dead. You might be dead before they graduate from high school, man. Like, did you think about that when you had a kid? Like, you know, but the disadvantage to that is like I needed money so bad, I would have sold my shoes. Like I needed money so bad. So like if someone's offering you $20 and you need money that bad, you're taking that $20. You're not going to think about it because you're in a situation that doesn't allow you to think about it. It's either that or they don't eat. And you're going to choose to feed them. So there you go. So I fed my kids. I don't have any Harley artwork. I don't have any Spider-Man artwork, but I fed my kids. I did my job as a dad. And no.
That's what's important.
I don't regret that. Do I wish I had a page? Well, if wishes were fishes. So anyway. All right. Does that answer that? No? Yeah.
Yeah. So what kind of indie creators have you actually collaborated with that you wouldn't mind doing it again?
I would really like to get Temerity going back with Gemma. But also we both learned so much from that, like what to do and what not to do. But I think if we were ever gonna to do it, we'd both need to be in a place where we were basically a little bit independently wealthy. Because they're Gemma's in the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
Gemma has 2 small children. You know what I mean? When you have small children, you do not have money. Okay.
I got a set of twins, so right, I know what you mean.
You know, and so you can't go to that creator and say you can't have half of this because I need it more than you. We both needed it, you know, and so but yeah, Gemma is amazing to work with. You know, Mark's a lot of fun. So I've worked with Mark on creator-owned projects. Tom's amazing. Like, and this is what I like about Tom. Like, Tom don't care. He's like, "What do you need? What do you want? What do you need? What do you want?" Like, and which he almost, I don't know if he has kids or not, but it almost feels like Tom doesn't have kids. He's like, well, he's like, "I'll let you have it all." You know what I mean? I'm like, It's like, okay, like I appreciate it, but I'm trying to do like my own stuff too. But so far working with Artist Elite has been really amazing. But with Artist Elite, I'm on my own. And I hate that because all I'm good at is drawing, Matt. That's it. I'm just good at drawing. I am not good at, dude, are the colors done? Where are the finished pages? Are they lettered? Does the editor have them? Does the printer have them? That's the stuff where I'm like, let me find out real quick, But the cool part about that is if you work with people who are on the ball, like Chuck's on the ball, Zin's on the ball, Sean's on the ball, the other creators are on the ball. Like, I'm pretty sure that Ali Garza can do his stuff that he's doing for Artist Elite with his eyes closed in a matter of minutes. Like anyone that comes from that Jim Lee Homage Studio, they are certified art Spartans. Okay, you don't get to go to Homage Studios if you don't have the chops. And like I've seen Ali like bust out finished pieces faster than I can think about what I want to put on the page. So and Jim Lee's that fast too, right? Like he's just that fast.
I've watched some of his videos. I was like, it's got to be sped up, but
no. They are not sped up. They are not sped up. He's that good, that fast, all the time. Period. And that's why he's great, because he can crank. Nobody is as good and as fast as Jim is. Period. That's like, we talk about Jack Kirby being fast. Jack Kirby was fast. And Jim Lee is not as fast as Jack Kirby. But Jack never did what Jim did. Because Jim's stuff had some crazy stuff in it. Do you know what I mean? And this is not a slam on Jack Kirby. I would cut parts of my body off to draw like either one of these gentlemen. Okay. I'm just saying like I would much rather read a comic book drawn by Jim Lee than I would one by Jack Kirby, because Jim just puts in so much more. You know what I mean? And and it's a conscious decision. You can't have it all. You can't do it all. You have to make decisions. And that's what people don't realize when you're looking at something. That artist has chosen and once again, Kirby probably had to do, once again, it was probably a matter of necessity. You got to think about when Kirby was drawing comics for Marvel. It was the Depression. No artist back then woke up and said, I want to draw comics for this comic publisher. It was considered smut. It was like a lot of them worked at like Stan Lee. Stan Lee's a pen name. That's not Stan's real name. His real name is Stanley Leibowitz.
Yeah, he was actually saving it for when he wrote the Great American Novel.
Exactly. Nobody back then was like, yeah, I'm a comic book artist, and they were proud about it, and they wanted to do it. This was like their dirty little secret that they had to hide from their neighbors. And so Kirby was just, he's like, I'm just getting this done. I'm just getting this out as fast as I can. If you ever talk to John Romita Sr., like I've been to panels at Comic-Con where John Romita Sr. talked about Jack Kirby. He said Jack Kirby was the best artist he'd ever seen, period. And he said, he was like, he chose to put that level of detail into his books because he hated it. He just wanted it to be done and over. It was a job to him. It was something he had to do to feed his family. He would much rather have been doing something else, but he had the capability to do something else. Okay. But it was a conscious decision on his part. But he was a master at what he did, because he literally created like 60% of the Marvel universe.
Oh yeah.
So
have you ever seen his warm-up drawings that he would do every day?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, those were so fantastic.
I try to do this. Yeah, I tried to do the same thing. Let me see if I can find. If I show something accidentally naked, you can edit this out, right, Andrew?
Yeah.
So these are just like gestures that I do of cats. Like this is Cat Day, and I think this is the most important thing. Let's see if we can bring this up. There we go. So in comics, gesture is the most important thing. If you have a bad gesture, you're condemning yourself to a bad panel, a bad page down the road. Like,
is there anything you could do to improve gesture drawings, like for
yes.
Our audience? So
yes, so there's sites like lineofaction.com where you can go in and you can set up and a lot of times they'll call it life drawing, or but what you do, gestures are just very, very quick. So these were probably, let me see if I'm gonna roll the dice. We're gonna open this up because I think Cat Day. I think I have some of these that are labeled, like how long it took me. Look, this is a fun page. Look at this. So I did a little tiny Darth Maul Grim Reaper cat. Let's see if any of them have numbers on them. More cats. So these look more, to me, these look more like 2-minute drawings. These are all drawings I did in 2 minutes. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And so you can go into Line of Action and you can say, I want to draw 2 hours worth of 2-minute poses. Or you can say, okay, I want to draw like 30 minutes of 30-second poses and 10 minutes of 10-second poses. And so, but the idea is that you're getting as much information in as fast as you can. Okay. So here's some 10 minutes. These are 10-minute ones. So that's a 10-minute cougar. This one turned out fantastic. We all know what that cat's doing. Yeah. Right. Okay. So, and these are 5 minutes. So you can see like the level of detail increases. So there's my 10-minute cat pose.
So you're just doing each like individual segment on a different layer.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. When I fill up the page, I turn off the layer and then I hit plus, it adds a new layer in, and then I just start drawing on it. And then, but all my figure drawing for that day is all on one file. And then eventually I'll get enough of these. I'll make an Art of Chad Hardin sketchbook, which I have enough right now for like 2 more Arts of Chad Hardins, but I need some free time to do it. So I got enough. I mean, who would not pay $30 to have this in a sketchbook?
I love it.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, definitely. And there's the other thing. If you're going to have a bet, like everyone's like, well, how do you avoid artist block? How do you avoid this, that, or the other? If you get up in the morning and you do at least an hour or a couple hours of just gesture drawing before you warm up, all your bad drawings happen first thing in the day. The more drawings you do, the better you get as the day progresses. So you're not going to have a bad drawing at the end of the day. That rarely happens. The bad drawings are always the first drawings. So if you're only taking like 30 seconds to a minute, you're going to get all that crappy drawing, and it's only going to waste you like maybe 2 or 3 hours of time. It tops. And then you're going to be, by the time you're done with your gesture and your warm-ups, you're ready to go. You're in the zone, so to speak. You're there. You don't have to practice anymore. You're warmed up. So yeah, everyone should. A lot of artists will do a commission first thing. That'll be their warm-up sketch. They'll actually like do a commission.
Wait, so you're saying get the crappy ones done early on, and some people are like, yeah, that means commissions. I like that.
Well, you got to understand. You got to understand. Like, sometimes you don't have a choice. Like if I go to a show, so when I'm at a show, somebody's going to get the first commission of the day. Period. You see what I'm saying? And sometimes you only do like one, or sometimes you'll do 20 commissions a day. Sometimes I think my record was like 100. I did 100 commissions in one day. Why would you
do that to yourself?
You know what? I was young and dumb, and I was. This is when Harley like hit, and I hadn't learned yet. And I think I was charging like $50 a headshot, and people would just come up to me and be like, and I was like, and this is how stupid I am. Rather than like, and my wife is so smart. I've basically given up on decision making at this point, because she said back then, she's like, why don't you charge like $100 a headshot instead of, and then do half, or $200 a headshot and do a quarter, make the same amount of money, but you're only doing 25% of the work. It took me years before. And here's the problem. you tell yourself, well, who's going to pay me $100 to do that, or $200 to do that? And you just, as an artist, there's almost this insecurity because you're so used to, especially when you're unknown, you're so used to people being like, I ain't paying you that much. Are you crazy? Like, but like once you really need to understand, like once you're good enough that editors are calling you up and asking you for your work, you're good enough to start charging way more for your artwork. And even now, people told me I need to charge like $100 more. But see, I'm one of these guys though that I'm like going. My problem is also I'm a fan too, and I hate it. Like I hate going up to artists that I love and just feeling like I can't afford their artwork. It is like the worst feeling ever.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like I want an Arthur Adams piece so bad it makes my teeth hurt. I can't afford Arthur Adams. I just can't afford him. And ironically, like I have 2 Adam Hughes pages. So even Adam Hughes, like on his interior pages, if you want artwork from Adam Hughes, go get an interior page because his covers are 60, 70,000. So people are buying his covers sight unseen for more than what most people make in a year. But for some reason, like his interior pages, you can pick them up for a couple of thousand. So I saw that. I'm like, sold, absolutely. But so it's just something. It's something that you have to overcome. You have to know what you're worth. But
how does an artist actually figure out their worth? Because I've talked to artists that, it's like godlike work, and they're charging $10. And then I've talked to some other creators that it's like, it looks like a 10-year-old drew it, and they're like $200.
You know what though? But let me tell you something. Those artists, it's all about confidence, man. It's all about confidence, and you really do need to have some type of a bell curve. But those terrible artists that hustle, there's an art to the hustle. So I don't begrudge anybody. Like if you can sell it for that much, sell it. But the first thing you should be telling yourself, like if you think you're a better artist than that person and they're selling it for that amount, you should immediately stop whatever you're doing and say, I'm not charging enough. Do you see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Like, yeah. So, but also consistency too, because I've seen that happen, but maybe that artist struggles with getting consistent work. Like I know right now, if I got on Facebook or I got on social media and I opened up my commission list for the prices I have now, I would fill up enough work for a month within a couple hours. And I like being able to do that. Like I like to know, like if something bad happens, I can open up my commission list and pay for whatever's happening that month in a couple hours. It's sort of like a nice place to be.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's ins and outs. It's all a trade-off, and you just have to find something that gives you balance and allows you to do what you want to do. And and I didn't know this because fans don't talk to you a lot. But I have a lot, and maybe this is true, maybe it's not true. But one fan came up to me and said, that like you're one of the people's favorites. And I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah. They're like, you're nice, you are affordable, and you're approachable. And I'm like, well, maybe I need to work on this. But here's the cool thing about it though. That's why I don't have a problem getting into shows. That's why I don't have a problem getting work, because I try to treat people nice. Like, I work with people who I'm like, dude, how do you like, have you ever worked with someone where you're like, I'm not working with them again?
Oh,
like
yes.
That's the whole takeaway, right? Is the conversation like, and it doesn't matter how talented they are. They might be the most talented person in the world. And you're like, I don't want to work with that person because they're an asshole.
Yeah.
So try not to be an asshole.
So I've actually seen some covers that were just a standard bust, or
Mhm.
I mean, do those make good covers? Or
Okay, here's the problem. How are you gauging good? What's your definition of good? Because I love covers. You know what I love? I love covers that are basically a preview to what's happening in the issue. Like, to me, like, one of the best covers I've ever done was for Temerity. I
Mhm.
love both the covers I did for Temerity too. But guess what? Those covers are the kiss of death, especially to like a creator-owned book. Like, if I want people to just grab a book, all I got to do is draw the most pretty person I can on the cover in the most suggestive pose I can. Those are the covers that sell like hotcakes. And
Yeah.
like, if I just want to sell books, there's the formula. Put the prettiest person in the sexiest pose, and don't worry about anything else. Just worry about making that person pretty. That's what
Okay.
sells. But but I hate, like, as a comic book nerd, I hate that. I hate inventory covers. Some people are amazing. Some people are amazing at it, and a lot of the covers that are like uber famous right now, they're inventory covers. But what happens is that person is producing so much artwork for the publisher, they they basically hit what I call like a creative wall. Because you can't, like, if DC's coming to me and saying, Chad, we want 50 Harley Quinn inventory covers, which they haven't done, by the way, but if they did, I can't just give them 50 pinups. They're going to be like, dude, like, this is the same thing.
Hmm.
Okay. So, like, do you remember the Batman cover where it's the Joker, but it's the Joker made out of bats and he's smiling?
Oh yeah.
That cover is like super famous. Like, that book is valuable just because of the cover on that book. But I guarantee you that was an inventory cover, and that person's like going, I have to do like 10 of these. What the heck am I going to do? And that was like I bet you, dollars to donuts, that was a desperation move, and that they were trying to figure out a way to make an inventory cover without any type of feedback, without any direction, just like out of sheer desperation. Like, what am I going to do?
So you're not even like seeing a script or anything like that when
Not
you're.
with an inventory cover. They literally come to you and they say, we need a cover that can go on any Harley book or any Batman book or any Teen Titans book or any. They're and things might have changed, because it used to be you had to do your solicits through Diamond like six
Hmm.
months before that book went to press. And lots of times the writers haven't even written the script 6 months in advance. They have no clue. So you need a cover. You need a cover that's going to sell the book before the script's done and before the interiors are done. And that's why there's, especially in American comics, there's such a disconnect between the cover art and the interior art. It didn't used to be that way, but that's the way it was because of Diamond, because of the distribution. It had to
Yeah,
be
I
that way.
always wondered about that
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, it's my favorite book or something like that, or I'll see a book that's like, I love this, and you go to pick it up, and it's like there's that has nothing to do with what's
Yeah.
going on
And
internally.
it's a complete disconnect. It's a problem that is unique uh, to American comics. Now, the only way to get around that is that you basically have the books done so far in advance that you have what I call a narrative cover.
Hmm.
Um, but the narrative covers are a hard sell. You have to have a narrative cover that is as popular as, like, say, a pinup cover. You have to be a real artist. You have to be a Bill Sienkiewicz. You have to be a Drew Struzan. You have to be an Adam Hughes. You can't be a print jockey. You can't be like I know that I'm not at that level as an artist. I know that I'm not. I'm working towards it. I think everyone, like, but there's so as far as like comic book artists who I think are there, um Bernard Chang is definitely there. A lot of them have passed away. John Paul, uh, passed away, but he was there. Winterman, have you ever seen his work?
Not that I can remember offhand, but
even
it's
his
probably one of those.
Even his commissions were narrative. Like if someone came up to him and said, "Do me a pinup," he might do you a pinup, but he's going to draw the entire strip club in the background of that pinup. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you know what I mean? He's not just going to draw you like something that's going to go on the side of an airplane. That's not going to happen. Like you're going to get the entire world that goes with it. And it's going to tell a story, and that story is going to be perfect. It's a self-contained story in an image. It's not just sex sells. It's a narrative. And that's a real artist that can do it, and not everyone can.
I mean, you've done quite a few pieces that, like, for example, the Hellbringers cover. There was so much stuff hidden into it. Kind of what's the thought process of going about that?
Well, I shouldn't have done what I did with that cover, because even though I tried to sort of elevate that, nobody paid attention to it. They were just looking at Lilith. That was it. So I did all that work, and really, I could have just done that one pose. Nobody looked at the background of that thing.
That's like my favorite part.
You know what? But you're a rare specimen. You're a rare specimen. I got more compliments on the cover that I did for Mark, for like Jengar and Shred, and ironically, like I did one that was like a Conan homage. I got more compliments on the Conan homage than I did in like 2 hours. It took me like a week to do that first Hellbringers cover. Like that's how much, because it was the first cover for Hardin Comics, the first cover for something that I published myself, and so I like put my heart and soul and everything into it. But I really wasted my time because I made Lilith so suggestive and so sexy that everyone else just ignored all the other elements. So if I had a do-over, I would definitely do that differently.
Really?
I would do it very differently. Yeah. It's a beautiful piece. To this day, it's a beautiful piece, but it falls too far towards the pinup aisle. And if you're doing the pinup aisle, all that other stuff, the demon up front, the demons in the background, no one's looking at him. It was time wasted. So, and I'm not like I need to be careful when I say stuff like that, like because there's people like Mark loves that image. Mark freaking
I think it is a absolutely fantastic cover.
Yeah. But I'm saying me personally, like I could have done the same job, had the same impact, and only spent like 3 hours on it, as opposed to spending, I basically could have just drawn Lilith in that pose and it got the same effect and not had to spend a week on it with all the tiny details.
Oh man, it's the tiny details that I think just bring it all together.
Yeah.
And I mean, I spent hours like looking to see like, oh, there's this thing, and
But see, good artists will do it without you knowing. Does that make sense? Like, have you ever looked at it like at a Drew Struzan cover? There's no fact to it. There's no part that's unessential. Like if you think about the stuff he did for Blade Runner, which ironically didn't get used. Like, did you know that a lot of the art that Drew Struzan did for Blade Runner, it didn't get used until like the 2000s. It definitely wasn't used when he was younger. But there's no fat on that. Like you have Harrison Ford, you have Rachel. Every part of that was essential. And so good artists can do that where you're looking at it and it's everything to everyone and every part's essential. And I'm just not to that level. And the reason why I'm not at that level is because I focus on it. There's nothing that really intimidates me anymore about interior pages. But poster art and cover art, it's a whole different ballgame. It's really its own separate thing. And a lot of people are good at, and like I said, it's a whole different discipline. And there's a lot of people who are really good at like one part of that discipline. And the easy layup is just to basically do a pinup, because it takes the least amount of thinking, it takes the least amount of time, and it's going to make you the most money.
See, I have to disagree with you on that part, just because, like with that Lilith picture, I spent like hours looking at how you did the clouds.
Yeah.
I mean,
but like I said, you're
fantastic.
You're one of those fans that's like one in 1,000. You know, I need to do that with every fan. So trust me, it's on me. It's not on you. Like, I'm glad you did, and I know there's people out there that did, but I'm talking about like just the en masse response. Does that make sense? Like, yeah. the gut reaction. Like, if I flash that image in front of you for 5 seconds, because most people, when they look at a comic cover, that's all they look at it for. They look at it for 5 seconds. That's it. But, you know, so you're a special person that does that takes a look. But, you know, honestly, like, so there's an art to that. And if you're gonna do covers for like Brian Pulido, if you're gonna do covers for, you have to be like the master. Like, Brian Pulido is the master of the pinup. Nobody has mastered that whole process better than him. Like, he, you know, Lady Death is the perfect pinup girl. Lady Death covers they're all done by like the best pinup artists out there. But I don't know if that would transfer. Like, how many people that are perfect at the pinup, how many of them could do like a movie poster or video game packaging? Or does that make sense? You know?
Yeah. Oh, totally makes sense. Yeah.
Because you have to have something that hits as many different demographics as possible. It has to be sexy to adults and not sexy to children. It has to be mom approved and dad approved. It has to be, it has to have an acceptance for like 95% of the people that see it. And mm-hmm. and true masters, true masters of their craft, they're close to 100%. I've never seen anyone look at a Drew Struzan piece of artwork and says that sucks, or that's smut, or that's, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen with like Frank Frazetta. Like nobody paints sexier women than Frank Frazetta, but it's not smut because his artwork is so undeniably good that it transcends. And that's what I'm talking about. You need to have something that is universally recognized as being amazing, and that's hard to do. It just can't be dismissed outright. I guarantee you that Hellbringers cover got a lot of dismissal outright because I heard it. I live in Utah.
Oh, well, that's Utah. Okay.
You know what though? That's your that's 25. You got to figure that's 25% of your audience. Wouldn't you rather create a piece of artwork that instead of only selling to 75% of the people, sells to 100% of the people?
I guess it depends on how much you're selling it for.
Well, I'm just saying though that has like a universal appeal. So I think that what I do probably has an appeal to like 60 to 70% of my audience. I've got to get myself to the point where I create stuff that appeals to 100% of the audience.
I don't think there is a way to appeal to 100% of any audience. I mean, I've seen people completely bash on Dan Jurgens, and Graham Nolan, and I'm like, these guys, I grew up with and watching. So,
well, who's doing the bashing? Is it like another artist? Is it?
No, I've actually seen fans do it, and it's really disheartening.
Yeah, well, there's an old saying: don't feed the trolls.
True.
Some people just say stuff to say stuff, and lots of times, especially since the invention of social media, there's a lot of people that the only way they can get attention is to act like a complete jagoff, and you just got to ignore those people. Like I'm not doing it. Nobody does anything for toxic people, right? You just got to understand there's toxic operators out there, but they're like, let's take another example. I want, like, if I were to take my portfolio and I was going to go to a horror show, like a horror convention, or a Comic-Con or an anime expo, that everybody could come up to my booth, and people who buy art at those shows, that everybody could come up and buy something from me, because my artwork is so good, it's undeniably good. It has a mass appeal to the widest audience possible. All right. Do you see what I'm saying there? Like, obviously,
yeah,
you have toxic people that, you're right, no matter what you do, they're not going to give you credit. Let's take it back to, let me put it to you this way. Are you familiar with Andy Warhol?
Oh yeah.
Soup cans, Marilyn Monroe. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with Albert Dorn? Here, I'll make it easier. Are you familiar with Norman Rockwell?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay. So
I have to say, his self-portrait is the best self-portrait I've ever seen.
Okay. So Norman Rockwell, if you're an artist, people are gonna, Norman Rockwell is universally revered as an artist. You'll have some people that were like, oh well, it's too camp and it's too this, or but as far as like his skill and what he was able to do, he was undeniably talented. There's nobody that can say, I can paint better than Norman Rockwell. If you ever hear anyone make that claim, they're just full of shit. Okay, right? Because you can't improve on that. It'd be like trying to improve on like Botticelli, or there's some people that are just that good. Whereas you look at what Andy Warhol does, and it's freaking soup cans. It's soup cans. It's shit. His artwork is shit. It's shit. Anybody could do it. He's, everything he did, he stole, and he just did some really lame thing. But where was his artistry? Well, his artistry was in making, basically pulling the Emperor's Clothes con on the entire world. He was the epitome of a con artist. But he, for whatever reason, it sold. So it depends on, what motivates you. Does money motivate you? Because if money motivates you, you can crank out shit, make money all day long. There are plenty of artists that have proven that formula. But do you want to be someone who's basically universally recognized as a good artist? My kids are raised. My house is almost paid for. I'm interested in my legacy. And my legacy, if people are still looking at my artwork in 100 years, it's going to be because I was undeniably good, not because I was part of a fad. Warhol's a fad. One day people will look at his stuff and be like, what the fuck were these people thinking? Because it is. It's just shit. It doesn't take any skill. It didn't take any thought. He literally was just like, I am cool. I'm a beatnik. Buy my stuff. And people are like, yeah. They're not going to say the same thing about Norman Rockwell. Okay. They're going to be like going, if anything in 100 years, they're not going to believe that a computer didn't do it. Do you know what I'm saying?
True.
So, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So that's the difference. But art is subjective. I can't tell you how many times I've gone into an office of people who I respect, and I respect their artistic opinion, and they'll have a Warhol print. They won't have a Norman Rockwell print. They'll have a Warhol print. But, as an artist, though, trust me, you admire the people like Dorn and Rockwell and Buscema and Frazetta and you know what I mean? Artists know who the good artists are. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Your fans, not so much.
All right.
So, and I love my fans. I couldn't do it without my fans, but I'm just saying, sometimes they give me a pass when they shouldn't. That's like, I'm really uncomfortable now. No. But like I said, I'm glad you like it, and I'm glad I'm glad you like the cover that I did. I'm glad that you look at that, and you should be able to look at that forever and find something new in that cover every time you look at it. And that's what I'm trying to do. But I'm trying to do something that just has more of a universal approval than just being dismissed as a pinup.
Now, with like Temerity and stuff, it seemed like you really seemed to enjoy drawing the
I love
the
Temerity.
spaceships and all that kind of stuff.
I did.
Have you ever thought of just doing that for a cover?
Just spaceships and whatnot? Yeah. Well, so do
you think that would have the potential to sell?
I do, but if I were going to do it, if I was going to take the time to create a piece of artwork, I would almost. So people are basically loyal to their fandoms, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if I was going to spend the time and I was going to draw spaceships, I was going to do something like that. And like I said, I'm getting to the point where I'm a little bit more financially independent than I was. But if I wanted to make a couple $100, I would do the Temerity one. If I wanted to make a couple $100,000, I would do a Star Wars one. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because if I go to a show and someone's flipping through my portfolio and they see a Star Wars property, that's almost a guaranteed sell. Like if they like my artwork and they see Star Wars and if they're a fan of my artwork and they're a fan of Star Wars, they will buy the Star Wars. Period. 100% they're going to buy it. With Temerity, it's like they're not familiar enough. They don't know it enough. Like they might admire the artwork all day long, and they might think it's the most beautiful thing, but they're unfamiliar with the characters, and so they don't have like that emotional connection to it. And once again, that's the difference between artists and illustrators. We're basically mercenaries, and we're doing things for money as opposed to artistic loyalties. But I think what happens, old illustrators become more and more real artists. Like Drew Struzan doesn't do illustration anymore. He draws whatever he wants, and people can buy it or they cannot buy it. And that's what and he's like, I don't need the money. I'm sitting on a couple million in movie poster art that anytime I need money, I'll just go sell my Indiana Jones sketches for $100,000, and people will snatch them up and buy it. I'm not to that point yet, but if I get to that point, then I won't be an illustrator anymore. I'll just draw whatever the hell I want.
Okay. But
I'm at this point, I'm still an illustrator. I still need that money a little bit. I still got to make sure I have a retirement. Like I said, I basically raised my kids. Now I got to make sure I can afford my hospital bed in my nursing home.
The whole trade-off of raising the kids.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, oh, you got all this stuff paid for. Let's figure out some new stuff for you to pay for, So yeah. I'm not healthcare rich.
Is anyone?
Not in America. 1% in America, right?
Yeah.
We're all working on it though, right? We're all working on it.
See, I'm just trying to get to the point where I'm rich enough to where I'm filling my gas tank rich.
I know.
After that, I'm good.
Right. Everyone's feeling it right now. Everyone's feeling it right now.
So how has that actually affected, the kind of economic situation that we find ourselves in America? How has that affected kind of the art community?
People are so most of the time, like when you go to a convention and you sell a piece of artwork, everything you sell is an impulse buy.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say since St. Louis, and I can't remember which month St. Louis was, but it was almost immediately after the Fed said we're going to raise interest rates. People all of a sudden, I don't know how much money I'm going to have. So I'm going to go and I'm going to look at every poster in this con, and then I'll circle back around. And if I still want your print, I'll buy it. Now, I'm lucky enough that most of the people who tell me that actually come back and buy it. But I remember the days very strongly where people would say that to you, and then you'd never see them again. They wouldn't come back. So I don't know if my artwork, it's probably a mixture of my artwork becoming better and just becoming like sort of a bigger name, more recognizable name. But yeah, so it hasn't affected me a lot yet. And you know what? I also watched a video this morning, and this is absolutely true. One person's financial catastrophe is another person's financial boom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And a great example of that is COVID. I don't know anybody who did better during COVID than Ryan Kincaid. And as someone who and here's the other thing, you become dependent. Like I really am still, when it comes to like creator comics, I am a babe in the woods. I really don't know what I'm doing yet. I really don't. Like I know comics, but my view of comics is from a freelancer view. And so like when COVID hit, I was teaching at the university, and I'm just like going, thank God I had this job. Because if I was working for Marvel and DC and they called me up and they said pencils down, like I would have had a heart. I really think I would have had a heart attack. I think it might have killed me. Like I would have freaked out that much. But Ryan Kincaid's like, wait a second, Marvel's not making books, DC's not making books. So he immediately he called up like every retailer and was like, how many issues of Persuasion you want? Because he knew that local comic book stores still needed to sell comics.
Oh yeah.
And so he went from just sort of this background character to like overnight during COVID being one of the biggest ballers in the industry. And I don't know if I'm like the only one that's aware, because I'm friends with him and we talk and I know I sort of know what's going on. But I think he's probably one of the top paid artists during COVID, Ryan Kincaid, because he saw an opportunity. Yeah. Because he saw an opportunity.
His metal cover up on my wall right now. So yeah,
exactly.
Vampirilla.
Yeah. So he saw that and he's like, I'll sell you. Marvel, DC won't sell you books. I'll sell you books. And he just boom, 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 boom. But see, it took that mentality. It took that, there's people that see something and they're like, oh shit. And they're just sort of standing there watching it, which is what I was doing. Like, I'm like, here we go again. You know what I mean? Like, everyone hold on. And he's like, I'm gonna make $1 bajillion during COVID. And he made a good chunk of change. He made a good chunk of, and hats off to him. I hope he doesn't care that I'm basically saying this, because he doesn't flaunt it. He doesn't go around telling this story. I'm going to tell this story.
Well, this is just good business sense, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it comes down to.
But what I learned from that is like, okay, well, when that happens, be a Ryan. Don't be a Chad where you're like, and have the heart attack. You know what I'm saying? But see, and maybe I'm being a little too hard on myself, because like, when 2008 happened, that's, there's nothing worse than seeing your kids not being able to afford to buy food or buy clothes. Nothing will make you feel more like a piece of shit than not being able to provide for your children. And it lit a fire under me. Like, if I, like I look at 2008 and I look at how hard it was, but I think because things were that hard, that's why I got so good, because I had to be that good. Like all of a sudden, like not working for Marvel and DC, like I had to go to work for someone that was going to pay the bills, and they had the money and they were still making bucks. So, but it's stressful. It's like, it'll age you quick. That type of stress will age you quick. So, and I'm getting old, man. I don't have too many more once in a century events left in me. You know what I mean? I'm like,
oh yeah.
Let's go back to 20 years of absolute nothing.
Well, I mean, what was it? 2013, I believe it was, when the New 52 came out. Mm-hmm. That's when you started working on Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
All that hustle kind of paid off.
It did. But I was also lucky, because Becky Cloonan turned it down. She was on another book, and she told Jimmy and Amanda no. And then where I made my luck is when she said no, they went and they started looking at like who was available at DC, and they saw my stuff and they're like, we want this guy. So it was a mixture of being prepared and being lucky. But that could have very easily. There's so many people that are way more talented than me that never get a big break like Harley. That's way more the norm. I'm an exception where I was on a big book and it was huge. I mean, I still to this day probably sign at least 50 Harley Zeros every convention to this day.
Okay. Well, I mean, it was one of the best-selling comics in 2016. So.
Oh yeah. 2000. It was the number one. Well, the number one ongoing series. We got beat out. Yeah. We got beat out by Loot Crate, and we got beat out by some special event stuff. I think Marvel said that they sold more issues of like Civil War, but you also got to understand like DC does stuff that Marvel and Loot Crate don't do. DC books are returnable, number one. And the numbers that they get, like when someone returns the books, they subtract the sales. See, Marvel doesn't even allow retailers to do that. Like once you order from Marvel, you're stuck with that book. You don't sell it. That's your problem.
Well, then they also have the minimums. So
right,
when you're ordering, it's a nightmare as a comic book store to
right. So I think if DC had not allowed returns, we would have been number one. And then because I think we had close to 700,000 issues in initial orders. And then when it came to actual sales, and this is what hurt us. They did 70, I think they did 72 variant covers of Harley number one. And so, and there were some covers that just did not sell. And they, and here's the thing. If you're a retailer and you don't know which covers are going to be hot, you're going to order all of them. But when they don't sell and they're returnable, well, there's a no-brainer. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like I don't fault the retailers at all, but it's got to be a little bit of a mixed bag, But still, we were the number one selling comic in September 2016, and I think we were number one except for Loot Crate for the entire year that year. So, wow. Yeah. But that was Rebirth. I'm talking about like Harley Quinn Zero. Like people still bring in Harley Quinn Zero from New 52, the one where it's like the giant Coney Island Joker face.
Oh,
that's, yeah. And then the Harley Quinn number one with the stars, the Amanda Conner stars. I will sign 50 of each one of those each show. Easy.
Really?
And it's been what? It's been like 14 years now? It's been a while. How long has it been? No, it hasn't been 14. 14 years, how long I've been at comic. No, 16 years is how long I've been at comic. It came out in 2000. It's been a decade.
Yeah.
It's been a decade.
No, was that? No, it wasn't 2012, was it? I thought that was.
Well, I think I worked on it in 2012, and then it got published in 2013, 2014. So, but yeah, we back then we were trying to get a few issues in the can before we went.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, what was your favorite cover to ever do?
Well, Hellbringers was a lot of fun. I'm not gonna lie to you, and it turned like. I don't think I'll ever sell that piece. Like even if someone came up to me and said, "I'll give you 20,000 for it," or some astronomical like something I consider like way overpriced, because it was to my first book as a comic publisher. And then I wish I would have kept some just for sentimental, but we talked about that before. I wasn't in a position to do so. So that's a piece of art where I'm in a position where I can keep it, because I think if someone were to offer me something for it. Like Mark would probably be the person who's going to offer me the most for it. Matter of fact, I think Mark's actually offered me a couple thousand for it already. And I just said, no, it means too much to me. I won't let it go for that price. But it has like a sentimental thing as far as like, but it's good art. It's good art. I look at it now and I was like, it still has a lot in there that most of the time you'll do a piece and then you look at it a couple years later and you're like, I messed up on that. I messed up on, and all these flaws just start pouring out. You're like, oh gosh, and you don't even want to look at it because you're looking at it and you're just like, well, number one, I'm better than I was then, and I enjoy it more. I enjoy what I'm doing now way more than what I did then. But that one still holds up, so that's a good one. The 25th anniversary for Harley Quinn was another one that was a lot of fun. And I did that. That was one I did 100% traditional, 100%. I think I sketched it digitally, but then I printed it out on Bristol, and then I inked it and colored it traditionally. And
really?
Brought it back in and did like an overlay layer, at the end to like unify the colors or whatever. But that was a pretty dope one. And then I honestly, I think some of my favorite covers that I've done. There's two that I can't talk about, so I'll talk about the one I can't talk about.
Okay.
But I did a sketch cover. I did a sketch cover of a Vampirilla comic. So I had a fan come to me, and they had a Vampirilla comic, and they're like, "I want you to draw a sketch cover on it." And I drew the sketch cover, but then I liked the artwork so much that I turned it into a print. Mm-hmm. And then I posted the print on Instagram, and Darren Hutchinson and the crew at Unknown Comics, they liked the cover. They liked that print so much they called me up and said, "Can we buy that and use it as a cover?" I was like, "Yeah."
Really?
Yeah. So that is really cool when that happens, because not only are you getting the money from the person who commissioned it, then you're turning around and you're basically selling the rights again. And then if Underground uses it for a cover, I mean, now I'll sell like 10 prints of Vampirilla every time I go to a show. So like, it's just one of these things it's going to make me money forever. And so that's really cool when that happens. But you have to be. It's very rare that you do a sketch cover that is that cool that it can be turned into a piece of art, because most of the time you're at a show and you're literally just trying to get it done before you have to run and catch your plane. I can't tell you how many times, like, I don't even have pictures of half the commissions I do because I don't have time to take a picture of them. So there's a ton of artwork that I've done that there's no record of. That's not on the internet. It's nowhere. It's in somebody's living room, and that's it. There's only one copy. One copy at home. Yeah. So it's pretty nice to be able to do one and then have the luxury of like scanning it and turning, and turning it into something that can be made into a print. Because lots of times it just doesn't work out. You don't draw it that well, or you mess up on the hands, or there's something where, see, and for me it has to be. There's so many people like, well, just do it with all of them. They're all good. I'm like, no. It has to impress me. It can't. Like, and like I said, I really should listen to my wife more, because I have 2 Black Cat prints and I only have 1 Captain America print. And I've had 1 Black Cat forever, and it's sold okay, but it wasn't really a blockbuster. But my wife talked me into doing this other one that I absolutely hate, and everyone loves it. And then she talked me into doing the Captain America. I hate that Captain America piece. I hate it. If you look at it, like if you really look at it, it is very much an undone piece of artwork. I did it as a demonstration for my digital painting students. So I spent an hour on it. That's it. I spent an hour on it. I did it as fast as I could. I literally just whipped it out, and it was a demo. And my wife's like, "I love it. Like, you should make that into a print." And it's probably my best-selling non-Harley print of all time.
Really?
But I hate it. Like, if anyone came up to me and like said, "That piece is a piece of dog shit," I'd be like, "Thank you. You get it." You know what I mean? Because I hate the piece. I hate the piece. And then there's other ones that I do that I love, and nobody cares, and that's okay. So long as it looks good to me, I'm okay with it being in my portfolio. And then sometimes I put stuff in my portfolio because it sells, and I need money.
As a comic publisher now, would you ever actually release a comic of your own stuff with a sketch, like just a sketch cover, the blank cover?
Yeah, but I probably it'd probably be a very low print run. I'd probably only do like 10.
Okay.
I would almost like I still very much believe in like the crowdfunding for I think the most successful independent publishers all crowdfund their books. And the good and so here's what I've learned from that. Have all the work done beforehand before you crowdfund. Okay? And if possible, have it printed someplace where you can drive and print up, drive and pick up your books.
Yeah.
I say that because you never know when a war with China is going to break out, or an international plague is going to hit, or your books are in the Suez Canal and the tankers trying to go down sideways. People don't believe. People don't believe. I feel really bad for Absolute because that's what happened to them. Their books they weren't on the boat that got sideways, but they were on the boat that was behind that boat.
Oh.
And their books literally sat in the Suez Canal for like 6 months. And they had people screaming like, "Where's my book?" And they're like, "Dude, it's on a boat. There's nothing we can do." And they, and they didn't handle it. There's one person that didn't handle it well, sort of riled people up, and they unnecessarily so. But you have to, if something like that happens, you have to do two things. First of all, you have to be the one that tells your fans, and you have to give them a heads up. You have to let them know what's happening.
Oh, and you have to do damage control. Yeah,
right. You have to do damage control. But part of the damage control is also saying anybody who wants a refund can get a refund. And that's where it gets scary, because what people don't realize is some of these creator-owned books, it is such a razor-thin profit margin that going on there and saying something like that means you might not ever be able to do that book again, because nobody can afford to take a bath on everything. People like Brian Polito, they have to know every time they do a Kickstarter that they're going to be making what they expect to make. Because if that doesn't happen, like people think that, I used to think, well, Brian Polito, he does everything. It's just Brian. Brian employs like 14 full-time employees and has them on salary and benefits. You know what I mean? And even with people that are just doing, a typical crowdfunder, if something like that happens where they have to do like a massive, refund or something like that, chances are that they're going under. Because they cannot afford they cannot afford the actual refund. But in my experience, if you're honest and upfront with people and you give them the option, they will opt to wait. 99% of the time they'll opt to wait. You just have to let them know that, hey, I understand. And if it was me, I would want a refund, and just put that option on the table. And most of the time, people, what that does is it builds an empathy, and people, especially, your fans who want to see you succeed, they will understand and they'll be okay. But
it also builds trust. I mean,
it builds trust. But if you don't give people that option, it gives your haters ammunition. And there are people that fund crowdfunding campaigns, especially comic campaigns, and just look for mistakes to bitch about. Because nowadays, any attention is good attention. Like I know people on social media that their only claim to fame is bitching about Kickstarters or crowdfunding. That's their sole claim to fame. It's what they're known for. And you can either look at that person and say, like, that person's trying to kill me, or you can look at what that person's doing and say, I'm going to make sure everything that they're griping about doesn't happen in my campaign. So there's always two ways to look at it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I find people like that useful. Other people are like, I hope these people die of cancer in a fire. But that's the
wow.
that's the wrong attitude. That's the wrong attitude. So anyway, but I understand, as a publisher, as someone who, who needs that money to do that thing, I see both sides of it. But I think if you are polite and kind and are good at communicating, you rarely get in those situations. It's very rare that you get in a situation where you're trying to communicate and it still doesn't work out. It happens, but not often enough to sink your ship. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So what do you have planned for Crypto Comics?
Okay, well, so I would love to have first of all, and I don't know if this will happen or not, because but I would love to get Deathwatch up on crypto. But I do have an exclusive with Artist Elite. So right now, Artist Elite is publishing Deathwatch, and I've got to give them time to make their money, because Sean's basically doing all this right now, like Sean Hudeku and the crew at Comics Elite and Artist Elite, that they're eating it on everything just so we can get it out. And don't get me wrong, they're making money, but right now they should be making all the money, because they're basically taking all the risk minus the sweat equity that I'm putting into Deathwatch. But I would love to get Deathwatch up. But I do want to take a moment to address the crypto comics marketplace, because right now there's a lot of negative shit floating around about crypto and NFTs, and because it's unregulated, it's new. Saying something's unregulated is a fancy way of saying it's new, and there's a lot of people out there that are doing their best to basically really put a black eye on the NFT industry, right?
So you're talking about the reason, like pump and dumps and that kind of
exactly
stuff.
Exactly. Well, there's a lot of people that are probably buying NFTs because someone told them to. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah,
the NFT itself doesn't have value. They're doing it because, number one, like, they don't even understand what an NFT is. They don't understand what a marketplace is. They don't understand how things work. And they're just doing something blindly because they're following somebody else. And honestly, like, you guys have taught me so much about it. I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't understand what I do know. And not that I understand it 100% completely now, because every now and then Andrew will pipe in and be like, hey, Chad, that's not how it works. Let me explain to you how it does work. But what I've noticed, though, is that you guys are making sure that you do it right. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. And you saw all this stuff coming. You saw it all coming. You guys knew what the problems were going to be before there were problems. And we're talking about art before, right? Well, there's an art to this as well. All right. And the temptation is to just grab that easy money and leave somebody else holding the bag. What you guys are trying to do, though, is sustainable. And I just want to encourage you guys to keep on that path. Don't compromise your values. Don't compromise your goals. Do it right. And I really think that the first people that figure it out are going to be the people that make the changes. It's not necessarily the first person that gets all the fortune and glory. Okay. And Marvel and DC are perfect examples of this. Honda is a perfect example of it. Oftentimes it's the person who watches the explorer go and do the thing, and then that person says, how can I make it better? That's always been like Japan's philosophy. They're like, let's watch how Americans make cars, and then let's make cars, and let's fix all the things that they're doing wrong, and let's make a better car. Right? You guys have always said, like, hey, we're going to make sure that this is airtight, that this is secure, that we know what's going on, that it's not going to be a pump and dump. We're going to make sure that our marketplace is a place where honest transactions happen. Now, if you take it outside of the marketplace, obviously, hey, we can't help you. But if you keep it here, then we can help you. And I didn't understand. Like, there's the longest time, I'm like, dudes, what, like, everyone, when you saw like Beeple blowing up, and you're like, dude, because we've been working on this way before Beeple, right? Way before Beeple. Okay.
Yeah.
And so at first I'm like going, dude, we're missing out. but now that like things are crashing, I'm like going, well, the reason why things are crashing is because these were things that were never valuable to these people. It was a fad. It was a fake. And I really think that what you guys are doing, you're doing it and you're doing it right. And that's why I'm okay with saying, you know, I'm okay to go to a convention and wear a Crypto Comics hat. And people are like, oh, that shit's fake. I'm like, no, it's not. I was like,
I appreciate
that JPEG that you have on your phone, that might be fake. But you know, these guys are doing it right. And I'm willing to stake my reputation on it because I know how much everybody is just, you know, whenever I say like, you know, when's this going to happen? You guys have never lied to me. You're like, it'll happen when it's ready to happen. And I didn't see the value in that until I basically watched a lot of people lose a shit ton of money on stuff that was shit in the first place. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just glad that you guys are, you know, building something, taking your time, building it right, and hopefully what you build stands the test of time. But that's the only way things do stand the test of time. Like, can you imagine if the pyramids were built by the contractor with the lowest bid?
No.
You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking. That's what I'm talking about, though. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm gonna have to start using that analogy. I like that.
Yeah. It only stands the test of time if you do it right, and it's 100% right. You know, and lots of times that's because it takes someone who has a vision and sticks to that vision and doesn't compromise. You know, so I'm just, you know, I'm throwing it out there. You guys, it's been a long road. And you know, obviously, you know, there's still some work being done, but I know that you guys are going to do it right. And when it happens, I hope to have, like I said, I hope to have tons of stuff that people can come onto crypto and be like, I'm getting it from Chad. I'm getting it from Chad. I'm getting it from Chad. But I'm just grateful that you did it right from the start and that you didn't compromise. You didn't do something that tarnished your name or your reputation or my reputation. Because the second that happens, I'm out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because you don't have a choice at that point. You know, yeah. I'm too old. I'm too old at this point to fuck things up. start over. You know what I'm saying? And I'm so glad that I don't have to go and explain to anyone. You know, well, what? You know, I lost all this money. It's like, no, not with me. You didn't. Maybe you did buying that dumbass ape artwork or whatever. You know. You know, you didn't lose it on my stuff. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I'd throw that out there. I shouldn't say too much. You guys probably do you sell a lot of stuff like that? Is there stuff like that? No? Okay, good. All right, then we can dunk on that shit then.
Oh yeah, totally.
I was like, you know, maybe I should, you know, but no, I know what you're trying to do. And here's the other thing. Did I tell you, Dream
Dreamkeepers?
Dreamkeepers. Okay. Oh my gosh. I'm so bad.
I'm totally going to tell David Lilly that
I know. David, I'm sorry. But David understands. David's older than me. David's going to be like, dude, I get it. Because this just happens the older you get where you're just like, shit, I can't remember the name. But
hey, I forget my kid's name sometimes.
I did a Kickstarter. I did a Kickstarter with Dave, and I forgot to fill out the survey. And when that happens on a Kickstarter, you're not obligated to give me the stuff. Not only did he send me my package, like he was like, "Hey, Chad, here's some." Like he hooked me up, and you guys hooked me up. Like you guys send me stuff all the time. Where you're just like, "Here you go, Chad," and I use it. I might not tell people that I use it, but you should see all the crypto comic stuff that I got on my artboard.
Yes.
Anyway, but no, I want to throw that out there because I want people to know that, you know, this is going to be, you know, when it finally happens, it's gonna be a good thing, and I still believe in it. I really do. But I also think it'll be a force that brings people back, that allows people to understand, like, yes, this does have value. It's not the emperor's clothes. It's not a con. It's not, you know, it's not a scammer working to scam you out of something. You know, these are honest people that want to make sure that that whatever you're doing has value, and hopefully, because everyone perceives. I mean, let's face it, all money is based off perception and trust, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I mean, seriously, that $100 that's in my pocket right now, does it have any value? It's a piece of fucking cotton paper. Do you know what I mean? It only has value because we all agree that it has value. And with the US dollar, it's backed by the biggest military in the world, so you can bank on it, right? And I'm just saying that you guys will do the same, and I'm optimistic of that because that's what what things that have value are things that we all agree have value, and that's what makes things valuable, is that universally it can be appreciated. So, anywho,
I do appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I really do.
You're welcome.
So, where actually can we find all of your stuff right now?
So, I don't do this enough, but Instagram. I swear, like every week, every Sunday, I'm like, okay, dude, I'm going to update Instagram 3 times this week, and then I'm lucky if it's one or 2 times. I'm horrible at social media, but the reason why I'm horrible at social media is usually because I'm trying to make something look fantastic artwork-wise, and I'd rather be a fantastic artist and a shit social media influencer than vice versa. So, but anyway, you can follow me on Hardin_art on Instagram, Chad Hardin on Twitter. I believe it's just Chad Hardin on Facebook. Let me just pull up my Facebook real quick. What am I?
All these,
Chad Wayne
Hardin.
And then I do have a Patreon. I if you're still following me and giving me money on Patreon, you are my true fans, and I think there's 5 of you. I think but I really want to get to the point where my Patreon is basically Deathwatch based.
Mm-hmm.
So like what I'm doing on the live streams now, I need to make sure that artwork goes up there. I did a pretty good job when we were doing Temerity. My Patreon really grew under Temerity. I need to have the same discipline with Deathwatch as I do with Temerity. But see, with Deathwatch, I don't have Gemma helping me out.
Yeah, I was going to say,
which is why
Gemma
nothing works. Yes, Gemma. Yeah, but Gemma has her, her health's not that good right now. She's needing to take time for herself and her family, and I just need to learn to. And here's the cool thing about Gemma: she taught me how. I just need to do what she taught me. But like I said, it's older. The older you get, the harder it is to do some of this shit. I don't care what anyone says. It's just my students, they get Discord, they get the social media, they get it. For me, it's like it's hard for me to wrap my brain around some of these things. So, But yeah, that's where you can find me, and then also my website, chadhardinart.com. Anytime you're looking for prints or anything like that, make sure you hit them up. And we're hoping to add to the store as well. So hopefully you can get like my art books and other merchandise from there soon. It's literally just a matter of me building it. But when you're like right now, as soon as we're done here, I gotta finish another page of Deathwatch tonight. I gotta finish another page of Deathwatch tomorrow, and then I gotta try and get 2 pages of another NDA comic, a comic I can't talk about, done by Monday. And so when you're under those interior deadlines, it just doesn't leave a lot of time for the other stuff. So you got to pick. You got to pick what's most important. So yeah. Anyway, that's it. And then I got Boo. Come here, Boo. Come be on camera. She's like, F you. She's so mad at me right now. Look at her. She's giving me the dog stink eye. She's like, you've been ignoring me.
Well, you took her for a walk, like right before we started the video.
Well, first of all, she's depressed because I think I'm the only one here. And she's very much a social dog. Like, she's only happy when everyone in the family's home. And so she gets really depressed when everyone's gone. And I'm the only one here. And so when they all come back, she'll brighten right back up. But then the other thing is normally, like, when I'm working, I will literally pet her all day long and draw. And I'm not doing that right now. And so she's like... That's what she's doing. Oh, but she looks so sad, and I'm going to go make her happy.
All right. Well, my crypto comics compatriots, we're going to wrap this up. So everybody out there, take care.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
Okay, I'll be just kind of asking you questions, stuff, just kind of about creating the perfect comic cover.
Oh, I don't know. Is that what we're doing? Covers?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sweet. All right.
Okay.
I don't know if I can create. I don't know if I've done it yet. So
I've loved all your your covers.
Good. Okay. Good.
All right.
All right. Let's do it.
So, oh wait. Oh, you're already recording, Fry. Okay.
Oh,
cool.
All right.
Thanks. All right.
So much for an introduction. We're already doing it.
Well, it's a good thing it's not live. All right. Oh,
So,
I'm sorry about that. I don't know why my alarm went off. What is that?
Because it's time to rock.
I need to just turn off all my alarms. I thought I had it muted.
You know what? I probably need to too. Though it's after 5. I think all my alarms are off. So yeah, we're good. We're good. No, that's fine, man. No worries. Okay. No worries whatsoever. So it flashes in front of them. Bye. Yes. No.
What was that, Fry?
I have no idea. I just started dancing. I figured that was a. I remembered. Like.
Wait, hold that thought. Let me drop off so that I could just cut myself out of the video. So Matt, just bring it up.
All right. Bring it up, Matt.
I can't even think of what to say to bring it up.
Well, ask me a question like, what do I plan for Crypto Comics?
Okay. So it just seems so scripted now.
It's okay. It's okay. It's all scripted, buddy. It's all scripted. You want me to do it? I'll ask myself. Chad.
All right. I got it.
All right.